Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Doug Show. My name's Doug Cunnington, and in this episode, I'm just going to give you a little update. This is what we'll consider a bonus episode. So number one, I was able to recover the hard drive. And I'll give you a full sort of breakdown of what happened. And I learned my lesson. As soon as the hard drive came back up, I backed up the other files that didn't have any cloud backup at the time. And I've done, 6 interviews or recordings since then. And immediately after finishing the recording, I'll go ahead and upload it. So thanks everyone for the kind words and wishes. A lot of people did either send me a message or comment directly on YouTube. So I was able to get the data back, and I will break it down. So that's one thing. The other is people like the sort of casual format where I wasn't in the studio at the time. I recorded on my phone, and a couple of people actually asked about the equipment that I was using. So I'm going to talk about some of the equipment I'm using today. It'll be a kind of a quick episode, but I want to hit some meaty portions, and rarely do I recommend specific products, but I'm actually going to talk about specific products relating, number one, to the hard drive, because it does have a good ending and a good story at the end of the day. And then the other is like the microphones and some of the equipment that I do use. So for the people that are only listening, I'll tell you where I'm at. I'm sitting in my kitchen area. We kind of have like an open floor plan, but I'm sitting in my kitchen area at the countertop island bar section, and the camera is set up, kind of far away. And I'm using a 50 millimeter 1.4 Canon lens, and it's on a crop sensor camera that's a T7i. And I think that makes it something like an 80 millimeter lens because it's a 1.6x multiplier. So when you put it on a crop sensor, it's a little bit of a longer lens. So anyway, the image looks pretty cool overall, and it's a very shallow depth of field, and I love all this gear and stuff. So sitting in my kitchen, I usually don't record up here because there are a lot of hard surfaces. There's big windows on one side, the ceiling, and there's just echo, right? Kitchens are somewhat echoey. So I basically try not to record in here too often. However, I am using a lav mic today. So it's right clipped to my shirt here, and it's a MOVO brand. And I have the other receiver, right? The receiver on the camera, it's on the top, and then I plug it directly in for the mic input. And I have 2 of the transmitters here. So if I do a remote recording, or if I'm far away from the camera, I can put these lav mics on. And my friend Steven from Trip of a Lifestyle actually recommended, I think, this specific set. It comes with a nice carrying case. I could hook it up to an XLR. So if I'm doing something where I need an XLR for the input, I could use that. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because when I first started doing YouTube, I got a small shotgun mic that would fit on the hot shoe, cold shoe area on top, where like normally you would put a flash on a camera. So I would put those microphones on top. The problem with those is there's some proximity issues that you have. So basically I have the camera set up like 15 feet away or so over on the other side of the room. And if I try to use a shotgun mic on top of the camera, you would just get the echo from the full room, and it would sound terrible. I hope that this sounds much better because the microphone's just right here and I don't have to yell. I can kind of talk quietly. You have to remember, not to touch your shirt or anything like that, or scratch your neck, but I'll try not to do that. So far, my neck hasn't been too scratchy today, so we should be in good shape. So MOVO, they have a full line of like wireless stuff. Pretty high quality. It's a good carrying case. I've traveled with that. It's very light. The carrying case is bulkier than it needs to be, but I think you could probably like throw it across the room or drop it outside, and it would be okay. So when I have traveled with this, I'll take all of the little transmitters out and then put them in my backpack, and they seem to do fine. I don't throw the backpack around. There's laptops in there usually, so I take pretty good care of it. So that's the equipment I'm using there. Like I said, I have a 1.4 50 millimeter lens over there. I got it used. I think it's probably like 10 or 15 plus years old, and I got it relatively cheap. I think it was like $150, something like that. And that covers the equipment that I'm using here. The hard drive situation is this. So it was kind of weird. I knew that I had kind of a pretty decent brand of a drive. So I was like, you know what? I registered this drive not that long ago. I bought the drive in June, so it's only a few months old. And I knew that there was some warranty, and I thought maybe there's some data recovery included with the drive. So I went back to the registration confirmation email. I called up. I immediately talked to someone. I think they just had to figure out what drive I had. So I started chatting with someone, and I had very low faith that this was going to work out. I thought at best I was going to go through the motions. They'd tell me, you know, good luck. Maybe we'll do some data recovery. I needed the data sooner than later. So there was a chance that I was just going to try to take the hard drive out, put it into a new enclosure, and then see if that worked. But whole thing worked out great. So I was chatting with the tech support guy, and number one, very high level tech support. So they weren't walking me step by step. They were treating me like an IT professional, and they were like, click here, do this, do that. And I'll skip some of the details. Basically, I went through the normal motions, like plug in the drive, like make sure the cables are okay. So I had already done that. I checked cables, I checked on a different machine, I made sure it had power, all the easy things. And it turned out that there was a firmware issue. The weird thing is I made no updates on my machine to my knowledge in the last several weeks, and definitely not the day that it crashed. And all of the symptoms, everything that I was doing made the drive appear like there was a hardware failure within the drive. So it did get power, and I was able to like plug it in and see lights coming on, but it seemed like the hard drive was dead. Once I downloaded the firmware update, then the drive showed up and everything was good to go. So it was pretty easy. And I told the guy that I did not have any faith that he was going to be able to solve the problem. I thought we were just going through the motions. He also said the same thing. He thought we were screwed and it wasn't going to work out. So the reason why I am going to plug the drive, I thought it was called Lacie, but it's apparently Lacie, and I think it's spelled Lacie. So it's a pretty popular brand. It's actually owned by Seagate, but it's like the professional line. And the reason why I'm plugging it is the support was amazing. Again, I didn't wait on hold, no issues. I have 5 years of that same high-level support included with the drive, so I could call up and they can help me out. So 5 years included, and I can't remember, it must be a 5-year warranty on the hard drive too. I could be wrong, and I'm sure maybe there's different warranties for different lines, but the other part is there's data recovery included. So if I went through the troubleshooting with the support guy and it didn't work, they would tell me to send it in. I'm not sure, luckily we didn't have to go down this route, but basically they would recover the data as much as possible. And he emphasized that it wasn't like just, hey, we're going to try to do data recovery. Like these are professional, like hard drive data recovery people. That's all they do, and they would get as much as they can. So I had a very high level of confidence. Further, once we solved everything, and I was like, this is a great day, my friend. You solved my problem. And my survey results are 10 out of 10. Like when he asked me, what's the rating? I'm like, well, I got the data, so fucking 10, right? I love it. So the thing is, they really gave me a lot of confidence that they would be able to solve it and at least get as much as possible. There will be product failures, hardware failures, wires go bad, like. There are a certain amount of defects that go through manufacturing. But they were there when I needed them, and luckily it was just a firmware thing. before we finished up, he asked, you know, hey, is there a way that you could have found this? Like, why didn't you find this certain information on the website? And basically, I didn't even really look. I just went to the email and it said, hey, if you have trouble, call this number. So that's what I did. If I would have looked through some of the FAQs, potentially I could have found the right firmware update to fix all the problems. But the thing is, I wasn't looking for it. There were a couple like bad links on the website. And I told him that and he said, oh yeah, you know, we're trying to fix this. There are some bad links on the website, but it wasn't only like problem solving and not waiting on hold. They were trying to figure out how they can make the website better. So, I mean, obviously it serves them, but if I could find the simple solution and just update the firmware, I maybe could have done that days ahead of time and I wouldn't have stressed about it. So when it comes down to it, they did a great job. So I think the specific drive that I have is a Lacie D2. I think it's a D2, and there's a whole series, right? So I had a previous drive, it was a 4 terabyte, and in the last year, I started to fill it up a little bit more. So I was very happy with the D2 4 terabyte, so I upgraded to an 8 terabyte, and they're actually running in parallel. So I have 2 hard drives with, you know, ton of space there. I also have a Lacie, one of those really rugged travel hard drives. So it's a 1 terabyte and it has like the orange bumpers around it. And apparently you literally can like throw it on the ground and it will technically supposed to still work, is what I'm told. I haven't had any issues like that. I usually treat my equipment pretty gently. I try not to drop anything, but it seems to work great and it's very fast. So I use Apple products, typically MacBooks and a Mac Mini, and they do have the faster speed connection. So I think, you know, one of them is like a FireWire 2 and the other one is a, you know, USB-C. So I think those have very high speed throughput, bandwidth, all that kind of stuff. So I can literally do like video editing on those drives and, you know, there's no weird lag or anything like that. So everything worked out great. Now I learned my lesson again, and I am backing up on a regular basis, just like I'm supposed to. The equipment that I have here, so it's the MOVO WMX20 wireless transmitter, and you know the package here, which I'll link up to. I have the Canon 51.4, which really can blur the background in a nice way. It looks really awesome. Hopefully I'm in focus here as we're recording. And the recorder that I used on the other hard drive story was the Zoom H1N. I think on Amazon it is, when I saw it, it was under $100 or so. So it's right on the cusp, but it's inexpensive, really high quality audio. It's not as heavy duty and beefy as the H4N, but it's lighter and it's smaller and, you know, it's for a different purpose. But the H1N, I mean, it sounded amazing. And if you do some sleuthing and you look around over on YouTube, you can find some comparisons where people use an H1N versus very high-end microphones, and the H1N does a really good job. So I have no hesitation recommending it, especially if you don't need something that's more, say, like weatherproof or rugged or something like that. I think it just takes a couple AA batteries. So anyway, hard drive is good to go. Thanks everyone for your concern. And if you like these like shorter episodes, especially where I'm like recording in a different spot, just leave a comment or shoot me an email, feedback@Doug.Show, whenever you get a chance. I know a lot of people listen on the go, right? Even if they're watching a YouTube video, they're kind of busy doing something else. So when you get a chance, you know, please let me know if you like these and I could do more of them. They're casual, I don't have to prepare as much. I'm just telling a little story. So thanks a lot.